Well, kia ora, everyone. Kia ora whānau. Thank you for this opportunity to present here at Education Week. I've been assigned and asked to speak a little bit about how we can engage customers in a digital world. And what I hope to cover off today are the followings. We'll cover off a little agenda. I'll then talk a little bit about a brief introduction about myself, a little bit about who I work for and what I do. Also cover off why it is important to consider web design, social media, and digital marketing as one of the main tools of online acquisition. We'll also cover off a few tips and tricks on how we can engage connected consumers so you can take a few key takeaways. I'll also cover off how we should understand your business objectives and then aligning that to your online approach to suit your acquisition clients. We'll also then cover off why your website or online landing page is one of the most important online marketing tools, and then just some digital promotional marketing activities to attract the right audience at the right time. So just a little bit about myself. I'm currently the Bishop of Avondale Ward and have been for the last 7 years. I've been in this particular industry of digital marketing and media for probably the last, well, I'd say a good 18 years of my career. And I enjoy it very much, being able to take businesses from where they currently are, create digital enablement, and then be able to help them drive and increase profits as a result of digital marketing and advertising. Perhaps maybe what I'll do is I'll cover off a little bit about what Zealed and who Zealed is as part of my brief introduction. We're a full service digital marketing agency. We are New Zealand's largest Kiwi-owned independent digital agency. A lot of the other digital agencies are either owned by an Australian organisation or outsourced to USA. We've been in this industry and have been around for probably the last 19 years. I've been with Zealed for the last 4, and prior to that, I'd been with big organisations like Stuff Media, Yellow Pages, Telecom, etc. Zealed alone, which is a Kiwi-owned business, have built over 8,000 result-driven websites, and that takes a huge amount of tenacity, but it also provides you with a little bit of credibility, with a little bit of trust that we know what we're talking about. We work across multiple web tech in the sense that we build off our own proprietary content management system, but we also build off open source CMS such as WooCommerce or WordPress, Shopify, Squarespace, Magento 2, and we've sort of gone into that area because it's we know that everyone sort of builds off those particular CMS, and so we need to be familiar with that web tech in order to provide a value and service to businesses. Along building so many websites, we've been able to assist many different customers with their website and digital marketing journey, in the sense that we can take businesses that have just started up right through to the sort of full-blown organization that's been around for the last 15 years that have a digital marketing team. And we work across all that spectrum in the sense that we take care of 1, 2, up to 100 men organizations to help them basically achieve the objectives, but ultimately to increase their profits and increase sales. As a result of being around in this industry for quite some time, we've been able to partner with Google and become one of their premier Google partners. We have over 300 or 400 clients that spend with Google, and we run all of their campaigns across from search, which include search engine optimization, to Google Adwords, to display advertising, which in a nutshell is like the display ads on Google's network, or display ads on social media platforms such as Facebook or Instagram. You might be asking yourself, well, why should we be looking to digital marketing for a customer acquisition? Well, we've been forced our hand. There's actually in New Zealand 91% of internet penetration, and so as a result of that, there's more and more people that are wanting to connect with a product or with a service through their online device. Over 81% of consumers carry out online research before making a purchasing decision. And I suppose I need to ask yourself this question is, when you're searching for something, even if you're in store, you're always looking for the best deal, in the sense that you might see something on the shelf and then you'll check your phone to check and see if it's cheaper somewhere else. And so as a result of that, over 60% of search is now coming from mobile devices. And so that's why it's important from a business perspective, if you're going to be providing any product or service, that your digital marketing plan is to how can you connect with these online users and consumers from a mobile device. These three biggest fears in our generation, quite some time ago, it used to be food and it used to be water. Now it's connectivity for your phone. It's power and battery, and last but not least, speed. If I'm sure that if you have young teenagers in the home, you'd appreciate the fact that they'd say, "Hey, what's happened to the Wi-Fi? It's not so fast anymore." Or if you've gone camping and there's no power to charge their phone, they're forced to go outside. And so, between Wi-Fi, speed, and battery, that's the biggest fears of our current generation. However, there's a rise of the constantly connected consumer, in the sense that, one, we, 5+ hours are spent online per day. We can't get past that. There's 65% of that time being spent on a mobile. And some of these statistics might actually surprise you. But as a consumer, you're searching 10+ sources that you're browsing every day, whether it be from your apps that you're searching, from an actual search on Google that you're searching. But this is probably the most important piece of the connected consumers, that 65% of transactions start on a mobile. And I want to cast your minds back to perhaps maybe when the pandemic hit. Prior to March of last year, people relied on perhaps maybe going into a store to purchase their product. Once the pandemic hit in March, we were all forced to, we were all asked to stay home, and so everything came to a halt. But online transactions actually went up. More and more businesses had to change the way that they did business with the consumer, and so if they didn't have an e-commerce function on their site, they all just became e-commerce, in the sense that for a lead service business, in the sense that for any essential service business, what they were doing was that, instead of exchanging cash at sort of a transaction of the service being completed, what they were doing is they were changing their website to a payment option. And so they added a function onto their website to be able to allow the end user, after they provided their service to them, to be able to pay online. And instead of making like a bank transaction, they were able to pay by invoice. And so a lot of these lead service essential businesses were changing the way that they were then now connecting with their customers and dealing and doing business with the consumer. a lot of businesses that were selling products that perhaps didn't have an online store prior to the pandemic coming and hitting New Zealand, they were all forced to change. And so a lot of businesses that were all, selling product in store had to change to being able to sell online and connect with the consumer there, and then implement this online pathway to ensure that they were going to be able to make transactions online through their consumer. So what I want to do now is just share with you a few tips and tricks on how we can engage our connected consumer. But before I do that, I need to ask you this question. If you're starting up a business, or if you're already in business, do you truly understand your target market? And what I mean by your target market is, do you truly understand who your targeted audience is? And if you do, then have you created a buyer persona for them? What I mean by buyer persona is that if you already know who your target audience is, then have you split up who your buyer personas are in that audience? So, for example, if perhaps if I was a plumber, then I would be looking at categorizing my buyer persona into perhaps maybe homeowners that perhaps are sort of in the 50 plus range, because I know that the homeowners in the 50 plus or 60 plus range would ideally be the potential renovation side of my business, versus the perhaps maybe the new home buyer that is perhaps maybe purchasing a new home that only requires a few things fixed, or things like that. But essentially, what you want to do is, if you have a targeted audience, is splitting out each buyer persona so that you're able to then put together a strategy that is ultimately going to attract that particular buyer. And so if you are in business or if you're thinking about starting a business, before even starting the business, well, obviously, one, you need to understand, you need to find out whether or not there's a demand for your services or product. But have you created your buyer? Do you actually know who your targeted audience is, so that you can then promote your services or your product to them? And saying that, do we understand, or do you understand your business objects, and have you aligned it to the digital marketing approach that you're going to take? Obviously, with any business, you're wanting to make sure that your business objectives is to ultimately make a sale, or is it a lead? And so if your whole intention is for an inquiry to come through, then what's that inquiry going to do? Are you then going to deliver a service, and as a result of delivering that service, then you're going to be able to make the coin. But ultimately, the business objectives that you want to achieve, you want to align it to a digital marketing approach. And so if I sort of perhaps maybe just share with you that there is the objective to perhaps maybe your left here or my left, and you want to align the digital marketing approach to that particular objective. And so if you're wanting to ensure that we achieve that, then clearly understanding who your targeted audience is. Do you know who that buyer is? Does it align to the objective that you're wanting to achieve? And then, do we have a digital marketing approach to achieve that objective? Okay. Now, obviously, a lot of businesses ask, well, where do we start? Do we start with perhaps maybe a Facebook page, which is like a landing page? Do we start with a Google My Listing page, which is a free landing page through Google? Or do I kick off with a website? Well, the first thing that I need to ask you is, well, what do you want, or what do you anticipate your connected consumer, who's obviously been searching for your services or your product, you need to ask yourself, what experience are you wanting to give them? And so I always say, well, you need to start with something. And so you either need to start with a website or a landing page. And then you need to review that website and landing page and say to yourself, well, how effective and how efficient and how easy is it for the end user to do business with me through this website or through this landing page? And I always use the analogy of the leaky bucket syndrome, in the sense that, you know, you could have perhaps maybe a website or a landing page, and you could be spending a hell of a lot of money trying to promote this landing page or promote this website, but all that happens is that the leads or the visitors that come through to your website or landing page, once they hit your site, you end up losing them, because you're not either giving them a good experience, or you're not providing them with enough information, or perhaps you're not giving them the call to action that you're wanting them to do. And so all of these leads are then just being lost. And so that's the example to the left, where you've got the tap running and then the water just leaking through that leaky bucket there with a few holes there. And so the analogy there is that, you know, if you're a business that spends a lot of money on perhaps maybe promotional activities, are you capturing those leads and inquiries to be able to convert them to potential customers? And so that's analogy one. The bucket in the middle is having a beautiful website, perhaps maybe, or a landing page that actually no one knows that it's even there. And so we often I often have clients or customers that I meet where essentially there's a lot, you know, they've got a beautiful website, but no traffic's going to it. Yeah. And so oftentimes, is that a good thing? Probably not. And so you probably just need to look at your digital marketing approach to review that. I suppose the fantastic, or the goal that every business is trying to get to, is this analogy on the right, the one with the tap on, with the water overflowing out of the bucket. And what this analogy refers to is that, you know, your website's doing really, really well. It's capturing all of the leads that are coming through. It's capturing all of the visitors to the site, to the point that that you just can't handle the amount of inquiries, perhaps. And that's probably a good problem to have. I think you probably just need to look at how you then put in you know, standard operation procedures to be able to overcome that issue. But it's a good issue problem to have, if you've got a lot of inquiries that you're responding back to in a timely manner. And so when you're looking at a whole overall strategy, from startups to perhaps maybe your businesses that are already essentially running at the moment, perhaps maybe think about, where do you sit in this particular analogy? Are you the business that are, which is on the right side here, with the tap running with the overflowing water, you know, in this really nice bucket? Or are you the bucket in the middle, where your website's a fantastic information there, and, you know, it's ready to convert your customers, but no one's going to it? Or are you the one on the end here, where you're just losing all your potential customers? So in saying that, consumers arriving at your website or your landing page, it actually isn't the end goal. The actual end goal is to get them onto that page and then have them make a decision. And the reason why you want to have them make a decision is because conversion is key. Conversion is key, because if you allow your end user or consumer to enter into your landing page or your website, and then allow them that first 30 seconds to identify exactly your business is what they want, then getting them to do and take that next step is the most important thing you need them to do. And that's because conversion is key. One of the main things that you might want to do to allow or enable your end user or consumer to convert is give your end user a reason to respond, in the sense that I'll give you this example. Have you ever been into a website where you've entered it for the first time, and then a pop-up appears where it's asking you to subscribe to a free 25% voucher or something of that nature? It could be a 10% discount, or it could be a a brochure for free that's normally $20. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're wanting to convert that end user or capture their details, give the person or give the end user a reason to respond, and so provide them an opportunity to do some business with you before them even entering your site. Now, you may beg to differ in the sense that you get annoyed when that kind of stuff happens, but that's okay. If that's what if that's not your flavor, then that's all right. But 9 times out of 10, people that enter in their details often are in the ready to buy mode. And so perhaps if you're annoyed at that time, you may not necessarily be at the buyer's journey at the end of the funnel where you're ready to buy. Yeah. And so you want to give people a reason to respond when looking at a site that you're going into, or when you're providing your particular service. It might even be a free consultation, if that's what you do. If you're a consultant and you're providing a certain service, it might be subscribe to a free consultation and book in your meeting. And so then you'd probably need a online booking system to book in your calendar appointment. But essentially, give people, your consumer, a reason to respond. Another thing that you might want to do as a result of ensuring that your customers' data is secure, or basically sharing with your consumer that you actually care, is that data needs to be secure, and in the sense that just think about the last time that you entered your details into a website, whether that was to purchase a product online, or whether that was just to subscribe to a voucher or subscribe to a discount or something. Obviously, if you're going to be putting your data into a form of some source, obviously you need to have that level of trust that your actual content that you're putting in is going to be safe. And so if you're the business that has this website, you want to ensure that you're showing your consumer or customer that you actually care. And so data needs to be secured. And so in saying that, you require an SSL certificate. If you have a website, then you require a secure socket layer certificate. And the reason why you require that is because one, it shows your customer that your website's safe, but two, for any website that doesn't have an SSL certificate, Google actually impacts that business by not presenting them when end users are searching for your product or service. And so I encourage you, if you don't have one of these locks on your website, to either perhaps maybe talk to myself, or perhaps maybe search on Google for SSL providers, which will then provide you with a service and a cost to be able to do that. But essentially, it helps protect your data and gets and prevents any hijacking or anything like that. It also ensures that credit card numbers, addresses, contact information, etc., doesn't fall into the wrong hands. It's also needed for any e-commerce site. So for any business or end user, anyone out there that I'm currently presenting to, if you have an e-commerce sort of solution or products or services that you sell online, then you require one of these SSL certificates. Okay. Ultimately, the benefits of having an SSL is really improved security and authentication, and it increases your website rankings. Okay, so Google places high priority on online security and taking into account whether a website uses secure socket layers and encrypted connections in their search algorithms. Okay. Just for those who have joined recently, I'll leave some time towards the end to take any questions. But what I'll do is I'll just fly through these slides and present, and then we can go from there. What I like to do and what I like to educate and share with my clients and my customers is that ultimately what you're wanting to do in your whole digital strategy is you want to make your website your hub, in the sense that everything that you do from a promotional point of view needs to go back to something like a landing page or a website. Now, a lot of people suggest that, well, a Facebook page is good enough. Well, I beg to differ, in the sense that, well, Facebook could basically change the rules, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but Facebook could change the rules, and then there goes your business. Your business that you just built on the software of Facebook has now just changed rules, and now you can't. Whereas a website is solely your own sort of software, your own sort of website content management system. And so if you're looking at a solution around, okay, should I build a website or should I just build my organization and online presence on Facebook? Well, I choose both, but make sure that you have a website and build your whole promotional solution around that website there. Similar to this example here, for some businesses, a lot of businesses only, especially if they have repeat business, only focus on email marketing. For some other businesses, rely on social media, from Facebook to Instagram to Pinterest, to many other forms of social media. Some businesses refer to retargeting as their best form of lead generation. Some businesses just work on their content. Some businesses just really connect well with other services, and they just link build all day to really just build that search engine optimization. For some businesses, they really just focus on blogs because they know that their connectivity with that audience that they're trying to get in touch of, but also get their message in front of, builds credibility and trust. And so blogging and connectivity and up-to-date information helps the SEO. I think that any business that is either a sole trading business or a limited liability business needs to be on a directory, and so having a free listing on a directory is really important for you. For your website, search engines, it's, for search, it's a really big thing to consider, in the sense that if you're really good at search engine optimization and you know ways and means of how to add code and meta tags and all of that stuff, then search engine is a really good tool to have, and a really good service to be able to do. One thing there is that if you are looking at search engine optimization, it's a long haul approach, in the sense that you're not necessarily going to get the quick results. If it's quick results that you require, then I would suggest that you look at perhaps maybe Google AdWords and pay-per-click solutions, or even display advertising, which will allow you to get in front of a certain audience and be able to market your product or service. Besides that, by having a website and making your whole digital marketing strategy based around that hub, ultimately you need to attract the right audience at the right time. And so I need to ask you this question, as a perhaps maybe an entrepreneur, if you're starting up a business, or if you run multiple businesses, or own a couple of different businesses or side hustles. um, you obviously, by understanding your customer, by understanding who your audience is, by being able to align your objectives, and being able to provide them with a solution, and then being able to provide them with the information that they need to be able to transact with you. Ultimately, you need to understand, well, how are you going to be able to attract this audience that you've just identified and already know at the right time? Well, there's a number of ways that we can do this. One of the most successful ways of being able to attract the right audience at the right time is driving targeted traffic to your site or to a landing page. And one way of doing that is Google AdWords. The reason why I say Google AdWords is because this is one particular service that we deliver, but it's one particular solution that you know that if you invest in something, you're going to get something back. In the sense that if you invest a certain amount of money into Google AdWords, it's going to help you achieve the following 3 R's, in the sense that it's going to reach your certain audience, it's going to be able to provide relevancy to your certain customer buyer persona, and ultimately you're going to receive a return on investment, in the sense that if you're spending $1, well, then you hope to get $10 back. Yeah. um, because ultimately that's what, well, you might even want to be, you might want to even get more. But essentially, by having and choosing Google AdWords, it allows you to have specific data provided to you to be able to prove the value of how well the Google AdWord campaign is delivering on the campaign that we've set up. Okay, so this is one solution that we know that is tested and that is proven, that for many businesses, and you'll probably see a lot of businesses already doing it. If you're searching for a product or a service on Google, you will always see ads being promoted up at the top. And so the reason why that is because of the what I've just mentioned, in the sense that it provides you your audience. When you're targeting a specific audience, it's going to get the reach for a very cost of value approach, but it's relevant, and it's going to give you a good return on investment. Other forms of solutions are using emails for email marketing. Yeah, and a couple of tools here that you could use and that you should become familiar with is Google Customer Match, or custom audiences if you're on Facebook. And so I encourage you to utilize those two tools that will allow you to be able to increase the opportunities that are out there for your business or your side hustle. For any business, I always encourage them to have a Facebook page, because we all know that people spend a lot of time on Facebook. But not only just have a Facebook page, but ensure you have a social media plan and strategy. Yeah. The reason why I say that is because social media can be risky and labor intensive, in the sense that you know um, by having a Facebook page, it's going to generate it should generate some type of inquiry, and so you might be there responding to a lot of inquiries. But like I mentioned earlier, don't build your empire or your mansion on someone else's land, in the sense that, if you just solely rely on Facebook, and I've had this conversation with many businesses saying that, oh, Facebook, yeah, it's the best thing since sliced bread. I don't need a website. Well, I beg to differ, because at the end of the day, consumers are different, and and perhaps you're providing your services or providing your awareness to end users that are searching on Facebook. But even if you search on Google and your Facebook comes up, not everyone's gonna click on the Facebook. But if they see a website, because that's what they expect, is, well, where's the website? That's why I beg to differ. And so beware of building your mansion, your organization, your brand on someone else's land. Ensure your plan aligns to your strategy, much like what I mentioned earlier. It needs to have an objective. Is your website, or is your plans or strategy based on the following? Is it to generate leads, or is it to generate sales? Yeah. Or is it to generate both? So have a strategy and plan, or a conversion pathway set up on your site, or set up through Facebook to be able to generate those two things. You want to be able to select platforms that are based on usage, functionality, and audience type. Okay. So obviously, Facebook's a really good place for visitors. Like, there's thousands of visitors that go to Facebook and that are on Facebook. And so Facebook is actually being used all the time, which is why I agree with most businesses that it is, a very good place to be marketing your product. But it's not the end it's not the end goal just to have that solution. It's got some really good review platforms based on which will best tell your brand story. So a lot of businesses that I deal with, what they often do is, if they're trialing and testing a new brand or a new product or a new service, what they'll do is before putting it on their website, they throw it out to the market through their Facebook page, just to get some feedback. And then they tweak it a little bit, and then they introduce it and launch it on their site. And that could be anything from a new product that's being rolled out to perhaps maybe a new flavor that's being introduced, if they're in ice cream or food, sort of industry. But essentially what they do is they send out a story to gain buy-in, to gain perhaps maybe information, and then they roll it out on their site. You want to make sure that it's, make use of paid advertising to increase reach and meet your objectives. So make sure that whatever you're going to be paying on Facebook, that it's got one goal in mind, is that is it going to reach your target audience? Is it going to meet your objectives? Okay. Holy hell. I'm not too sure if you heard that, but you want to make sure that you have harnessed targeted audience and drive them back to your site. Okay, so even though you've got this fantastic brand on Facebook, make sure that you're driving all of that traffic, and all the call to actions are being driven back to your site. Community size is often a vanity metric, but engaged audiences are key. Okay, so you could have, say, 5,000 followers to your Facebook page, but you could have 2 engaged end users responding back to your post that you did. Or you could have 35,000 followers, but you could have perhaps maybe 10 people liking your post. Yeah. So oftentimes just having a whole bunch of followers isn't engaged audiences. And so having an engaged audience is key. It's not all or nothing. 1 or 2 well-run platforms are fine. So what I'm saying is that if you had a website, a really well-oiled website that had very good content, that had a really good conversion pathway, that had some really good call to actions that were ultimately achieving your objectives, run with perhaps maybe a Google AdWord campaign, with a Facebook solution, run with some Facebook advertising and display. Running those 2 or 3 platforms are fine. Okay, you don't have to have the whole website hub with a whole bunch of different promotional activities happening all at once. Okay. And inactive accounts are more damaging than no accounts. And what I'm referring to there is that if you do have a Facebook page, but you just never ever respond to anything, then that's what I'm referring to damaging your brand, because from an end consumer's point of view, you're not responding to their need. Yeah. We have a few more slides, and then I'll end it there, and we'll take some questions. Just a few tips, and this is all free. Get a listed online Google My Business page. It's free. If you don't know how to do it, all you need to do is search on Google and say, how do I create a Google My Business page, and then Google will tell you. But it's free. It'll take you about 5 minutes to put some instructions there of how to create one for your startup business or for your existing business if you haven't already done so. This is an example of a Google ad if you haven't seen one before, but now you have. This is my Google Maps. So for example, if I was a chiropractic and I was in this particular area, when I create my Google My Business listing, it'll ask for my address. It would then authenticate me by providing and sending me a physical address code that I then enter in, and then Bob's my uncle, and I would then appear on Google Maps. Third here is the search engine optimization of the website, and so these websites here, or these listings here, are appearing there because it's relevant to the search, but it's also being ranked due to search engine optimization, authentication, authority, and the length of time the site has been running. Okay. Reviews are a good thing. Some businesses think that reviews aren't, and so I've had one business that have said, take my whole Google My Business listing off to remove all of the reviews off because one review wasn't very good. I always think that if there is 1 or 2 bad reviews, then you as a business owner have an opportunity and the obligation to respond back to that review. And so that shows character. But in worst case scenario, if you don't want it to be there, then you can always remove the listing. I suppose before sort of wrapping up, what I wanted to do was show to you what actually success looks like. I think a lot of owner of businesses think that, or people think in general, this is just a general approach here, but I think a lot of people think that success looks like this graph to the left. It starts off here, increases, and then it increases more, and then plateaus. But success actually looks like from a digital point of view, when we're looking at how to improve from last month to this month or last year to this year, it actually is like this. So you go up and you go down, you go up and down, up and down. And it's really taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back approach, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. Because the reason why it looks like that from a successful point of view is because the consumers are always changing, and so we have to maneuver the way that we approach and implement our digital marketing strategies and plans and campaigns to help increase the profits and also increase the visitors and increase the amount of end users that are coming into the site. So success actually looks like the graph on the right. Okay. If you have had AdWord campaigns, or if you have had or a website, then for those owners of a business that have a website, if you are very familiar with Google Analytics, Google Analytics is a very, very good tool to provide you as the owner, or even just as the client, transparency around, well, is what you're actually doing from a strategy point of view, or from an objective point of view, is it actually working? And so understanding the results is one of the things that I think perhaps a lot of business owners don't actually look at, because their time and their effort is all devoted to the amount of operational things that you're completing. And so oftentimes, what you're wanting to do, this part doesn't often come out higher at the top of the list, because your hands are doing all of the work and the operational tasks of the business. Whereas I encourage a lot of my clients to sit back and take 10 minutes to half an hour to review the results, because the results tell you the data of how the consumers are reacting to the perhaps maybe the ads that we've created for a campaign, but it also shows us opportunities of where to tweak and improve the ads and provide more strategy around how we can achieve results for your business. And so understanding your results, if you don't have Google Analytics and you have a website, then I encourage you to have or create a Google Analytic account, and then connect that Google Analytic account to your website. Okay. Last thing that I wanted to sort of finish off with is up to 81% of your business opportunities can be left on the table with an underperforming strategy. And I want to ask you this question is, can you afford that? Okay. So if you feel that perhaps there's some areas in your business that you require assistance or help with, I'm happy to perhaps maybe meet with you at a later stage. The host can perhaps maybe send my details out to you, and I can at least have a conversation with you. But perhaps maybe what I'll do there is we'll now go to questions, and then I'll turn the time back to Arama. Oh, sorry, I mean Aotearoa. Sorry. Alrighty. Okay.
I had a few questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So what's I was wondering what kind of budget is realistic for starting out? The necessity.
Sure. If you're that's a bit of a tough question, because it's how long is a piece of string? Yeah.
Okay.
But if it really depends on your mindset. If you're a business owner that is looking to do it all yourself, because of cost restraints, then it's probably easier for you to take a couple of different video tutorials on Google and see what website content management system solution is the best for you, and then implement it yourself. However, if you are starting up and you're wanting to be and you're wanting to be serious about it, then you need to ask yourself this question: Is your business a lead service business, in the sense that do you offer a service? Because if you offer a service, the main objective of your inquiries is to generate leads and inquiries, in the sense that all you want is phone calls or email inquiries so that you can respond to then provide a service. So if it's that type of service that you offer, then you'd probably be looking at, and this is just the website alone, you'd probably be looking at about $2.5K just for the website alone. Okay. If you were looking at a full-blown website plus digital marketing, then you'd probably want to double that. So it'll be roughly about 5K. I'm just giving you some guesstimates here too. But you'd be looking at about 5K if you were sort of serious about starting up. Okay. If you're a business that is selling a product, so clothing or let's say protein powders, you know, supplements and things like that. So an actual product, healthcare products, you know, creams, things like that. Then you'd probably be looking at 5K for the website solution, because you'd want to be building in a very good conversion pathway that will ensure you to get a good return on investment. Okay. And then if you were wanting to market that website, then you'd be looking at 10K. So what I'm saying is, for if you were a service business, you're probably looking at about 2.5K for the website, 5K for the, you know, the marketing strategy and solution on top of that. 5K if you were looking at a e-commerce solution, then you're looking at 5K for the website, 10K for the overall solution for marketing.
That's great. Next question. Is there, you know, I mean, it's probably another, how long is the string? But is there an estimated budget for acquiring customers? The cost to you know, find a customer, given you have so many clients and experience?
Yeah, so that all depends on how much is your cost per customer. So for example, some clients, I'll give you an example. I have a client that sells bearings and nuts, right? We're talking about over 5,000 different SKUs, you know,
Okay.
for products. Yeah. Actually, there's probably double the amount of that actually, but his cost per customer is, for every dollar he spends, he needs to be making back $50. But that's because his product cost versus the actual retail cost has a certain percentage. And so I suppose it really depends on what product that you're selling. So for example, if it's a supplement product, it could be, for every dollar that I spend, I need to be making $20. So it will come back to whatever that product, whatever the cost that he gets that product at, and whatever profit margin he's willing to spend it, sell it at. So yeah, it changes for all different shapes and sizes of business, but ultimately you want to be spending $1 and at least a bare minimum making $10 back. So if I spend $10, I want to try and get $100 back.
Thank you.
Someone else have a question?
Now is the time.
No
Now is
other
the time if
questions?
anyone's got.
Oh yeah. Yes. Hello. I just wanted to ask, but even is there a way to start with no money?
There is a way of starting with no money, and obviously what most businesses do if they have no money is that they create a Facebook business page, because it's for free. Yeah. But like I said in my presentation, is that the risk of doing that is you get big too fast, and you've built your organization and brand on Facebook. Facebook changes a few things, and you're stuck with having to deal with it, because Facebook changes their rules. If we refer back to perhaps maybe might have been early last year or the end of the year before of 2019, Mark Zuckerberg got pinged for a whole bunch of stuff. He then changed rules on Facebook, and all of the businesses that that relied on Facebook as their main source of lead
Yeah, I
generation
heard
and
about that.
income, yeah, it all came to a screeching halt, sort of stopped. Everything stopped, and so
Yeah.
they were all forced to basically build websites. So that's what I'm saying, is that if you're going to create an organization, or at least a brand, build it on a website, because that at least you've got something that's yours.
Okay. Oh,
The other thing too, and this is I should share with you this, is that Zeal, as a result response to the pandemic, we were offering free websites. Obviously, it's a do-it-yourself solution, and so you can go on to the zeal.com website, and you can see that we're providing free gem websites. Gem meaning get e-commerce moving. So yeah. So you may want to look at that solution.
How do you spell that again? So how did you
Zeal,
spell that? Is that ZEAL.com?
ZEALD.
Oh, D.
.com.
Okay. Zeal.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
John?
I might just put it in the chat.
There's Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth.
Hi,
Ruth.
John. I just wanted to ask a question. So we have a family beach resort in Samoa,
Yeah.
and so everything's done up. We're just trying to get it started with the business. Where should I start first?
We should have a consultation, a free consultation, obviously, Ruth.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a bit too long. Essentially, in a nutshell, if you were starting a beach resort, or if the beach resort is already erected,
Yep.
then yeah, you would probably, I would always start with a website and Facebook page. Those are the two areas that you probably need to start with.
Okay.
You may even want to get a Google My Business listing as well. The only reason why I say that is because if your family is like mine, especially the Gen Ys and the millennials, they're all on their phone, and all they want to find out is there a digital online presence for this resort? Yeah. And the only reason why I say that I think we probably need to talk is because a resort website is slightly different to a service-based website and an e-commerce site website. I mean, ultimately it'll be an e-commerce site, but yeah, there's some other questions we need to discuss around what online booking system will you be using, so that your end users coming to that site are able to book a room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe you and I need to catch up at some point.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
No worries.
Right.
One more question. Well, you mentioned that the mindset is really important when it comes to how you'll approach a website. Can you give us some indications, the people that spend their money and do the DIY versus those that go through a professional path? What warnings are there for the DIY? Because I know it's Kiwi to try things, but I'm skeptical.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're a DIY, and I tell you what, New Zealanders, Kiwis, we're all DIYs. We like to do it everything ourselves. But I suppose the question is as well, how much time do you have? And so if you have a whole heap of time because you're not selling anything or you're not providing a service to anyone, then yeah, sure, do it yourself. But But if you're actually doing stuff like if you're actually delivering a service, and I'll give you an example. I have a banker consultant. Actually, he's a mortgage broker, and he wants to be able to have this site that's promoting his brand, which is himself, and so we've been in discussions. His issue was the same thing, is that he wants to do it himself, but he actually doesn't have the time to. So what I'm saying is that, so I say to him, okay, so you don't have the time, but you're wanting this site, but you're wanting to do it. And he goes, yes. I says, okay, when are you going to do it? He hasn't done anything for the last 6 months. And so I spoke to him and I says, do you actually want us to do it? And he goes, you know what? I should have got you guys to do it 6 months ago. So he's proceeding with our proposal. Yeah. So I think it really just depends on how busy you are. If you're not busy, then yeah, sure, try it. But 9 times out of 10, you end up coming back and saying, John, you know what? Should have just went ahead with it, and that's ultimately what always happens, always happens, because a lot of the business owners that I'm talking to are just too busy to do anything else. They're busy running their business. They're busy with their life. They end up being busy going on a 2-week camp holiday. The last thing they want to do is try to do something that they're actually not good at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just a question from me, if you've got time.
Sure.
So I own a business for a couple of years, it's a small air conditioning electrical business. And
Yes.
We've got a website, and the guy that was doing it, it's just not a very good website. So I just told him to put up like a in construction thing until we sort it. And I've never sorted it because I'm too busy. And but how hard is it to get a new one created? So that it's just that old website's gone and we can proceed?
Yeah, sure. So I'll try and answer this question sort of as quickly as I can, but as constructive, and so that you get some value out of it. Essentially, if with any existing site, what's good about that is that we've got a bit of content there that we can play with. We've got a bit of a feel to the site that we can perhaps maybe improve and redesign. For us, short answer is it's easy, in the sense that we would be able to work closely with you, Peter, would be able to work with either yourself or maybe one of your admin ladies or your marketing person that you might have if you have one. But essentially, we could work closely with your previous or existing provider, in the sense that we would design a new site. We would then build whatever functionality that you require, so that if you had a specific functionality on your existing site, like a online booking system for appointments or whatever it might be, we would be able to integrate that into the new site that we build. The whole process could take anywhere between 4 to 5 weeks. And we would anticipate you to be in probably 1 or 2 meetings, providing that you had someone else from a project lead from your end. And so time-wise, we probably only need about an hour to maybe 2 hours of your time. Then all the other time would be liaising with your team, ensuring that we're delivering on that project, that and achieving the expectations that you were wanting. If your website is currently a service-based website, in the sense that the objective of your site is really just to generate inquiries, phone calls, or leads, then for us, you'd be looking at probably anywhere between maybe 2.5, 3K for the site, and would deliver that to you in 4 to 5 weeks. Does that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I did have another question too, and yep, so that's perfect. And we've got photos and obviously content on there. But if you're going to set up a website that has, because they'll be dated now, we could probably only use half of them.
Yep.
But if we looked at a website for my type of service business, how many photos would you need off the bat to try and get started so it actually looks decent when it opens.
Yeah. So look, Peter, with our solutions that we provide, we also check in 5 stock photos for free, and so depending on those stock photos that you provide, and you can choose. We would anticipate at least a minimum of maybe 10 for any service-based businesses, because if you're looking at the homepage, you'd probably at least have 2 or 3, images scrolling in the hero image, maybe another 2 and components on that homepage piece further down, and then depending on your team's page, you might have, if you're wanting to do it this way, you could have it a couple of different ways. But if you're wanting a team's page where you had each main employee have a profile page or something like that, or you could have just one image of the team and then who the members of the team are, depending on how many staff you have. We could even have certain other additional pages that would promote your services, testimonial pages. So I would anticipate to at least start, 5 to 10 being quite efficient for us to be able to kick off a project.
Sweet. So 10's good, eh?
Yeah, 10's fine.
Lots of photos, then I don't have to write anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, if there's content already there, we can play around with the content. Or if you think it's too dated, then perhaps maybe just having someone reword that content and then flicking it through to us on a document, we could then put it onto the site.
Perfect. Hopefully we'll get some details sent through.
Yeah, I've just put my email address on the notes part of the chat piece there. Peter and Ruth, if you want to just email me your contact details, and then I can set up a time to meet with you both to discuss your adventures.
Perfect. Thanks, brother.
No, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, I've got Ruth's email. Peter, did you want to just check your email up on the chat, and I'll send you an email.
Just a quick question. So, do you use or do you recommend Trade Me and YouTube, or no?
YouTube. Yep, definitely. Trade Me, if you're selling product, then I would anticipate that that's also another solution that you can use. So for some businesses, what they do is, and this is a little clunky because it actually ends up not really providing you with the results or the data that you need, because now you have to check two separate sort of reports to find out where your true end user is coming from. But essentially, if you had your website here, right, you have Trade Me here, and you're selling a product, what you have to do is you have to iframe whatever your products are here in this site to Trade Me. And I might be using some big words here, but really all it is that you're connecting the Trade Me booking system to your site, really, and you're sending all your traffic from your site to Trade Me. And so Trade Me ends up being your source of sales process, meaning that all your end users end up over here. So your website ends up just being like a landing page. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. But then I'm very new at this anyways, so yeah, I'm right in the brand new learning mode. So thank you very much.
No, that's all good. No problem.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think I've answered everyone's questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, I was running late because I just got in the door. But who are you? I didn't quite get the full info. Sorry.
Oh, my name is John Houma.
Okay.
and I've and I work for Zeald, and essentially I've been in this industry for about 18 years. I've ran my own little business and works for some sort of biggerish organizations like Stuff Media, Yellow Pages, Telecom
Right.
in my career. And so I specialize in helping businesses become more digital enabled from an online presence point of view. And what I mean by that is if you're looking at websites, social media management, email marketing, search engine optimization, digitizing, that's the sort of sandpit I've been playing around with in the last sort of 18 years. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I've been with Zeald for the last 4. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Nice.